Is alcohol prohibited in this so-called religion called Islam? The answer is yes, it is. Now, is alcohol prohibited in the Quran? The answer is no, it's not. I will show you by going over so-called chapter 4 and so-called verse 43, giving you first the so-called scholars' interpretation, which the so-called Muslims that follow the so-called religion called Islam follow and obey by, and then I will go over my interpretation, which I hope will make a lot more sense to you. The scholars' interpretation of so-called chapter 4 and so-called verse 43. O you who believe, approach not the prayer when you are in a drunken state until you know of what you utter. So are we led to believe that the Prophet, the companions, and the so-called Muslims at that time were in a state of drunkenness when they were doing their prayer, and they didn't know any better until they were advised not to? You reflect on that. To continue, know when you are in a state of sexual impurity and have not taken a bath, except when traveling on the road without enough water or just passing through a mosque, till you wash your whole body. And if you are ill or on a journey, or one of you comes after answering the call of nature, or you have been in contact with women by sexual relations, and you find no water, perform jawamum, that's a ritual, in which you clean your face and hands with earth. Truly Allah is ever pardoning, forgiving. Let's briefly go over the so-called paid scholars' interpretation of 443. In this verse alone, it jumps back and forth through different scenarios that are unrelated to each other. Basically, it doesn't make sense. The words have been translated and interpreted totally wrong. And what we have been left with is a verse that is quite difficult to comprehend. And one instance it talks about prayer, alcohol, sexual impurity, washing your body with dirt if you can't find water, if you have been in contact with women. And this is the reason why so-called Muslims, the male and female, do not shake hands, because they see it as an impure act. And it's quite a perverted way of seeing life in general. Now I will try and wake you up and give you my interpretation, the honest and the accurate interpretation of 443. To continue, authoritative document 4, inspiration 43. O you who have sought the truth, do not follow the natural law while you are disoriented, even if you know what you are saying. And do not be lazy or take it as a pastime, or even if you are passing by, or if you are temporarily getting involved, until you cleanse your mind and spirit. And if you are confused, again referring to the law of nature, what is the natural law of man and society in general, or following another ideology, or if some of you have come from a state of lower intelligence or ignorance, or you have been influenced by the masses who take no personal responsibility in the development of their community. The word here is nisa, wrongly translated as women. The true interpretation of nisa is someone who can either be a male or a female who do not take responsibility in his or her community in terms of building its community, taking care of the community, and ensuring the safety and security of his community. And the Rigal can either be a man or a woman. A Rigal is the opposite of that and takes more responsibility in building its community, taking care of the community, and so forth. So, for example, a Rigal can be maybe a police officer, a teacher, and so on. And an example of a nisa would be a man or a woman that just goes to 9 to 5 work or whatever he or she is doing, doesn't care about what's happening in the world. And if it does, or if he or she does care, it's more verbally than anything else. And if you have been influenced by the masses, the nisa, try to keep discipline and keep your goals and targets high, and cleanse yourself through physical and mental strength. It is because the natural law is your protector and guardian. So, as you can see, Islamic interpretation of 443 has caused mischief and perversion in the so called Islamic world. And to be frank, the verse doesn't make sense at all. It's going back and forth through subjects that are irrelevant to each other. Now, you've heard my interpretation of 443, and you can see it's a call of action. It's talking about abiding the laws of nature, God's law, being organized, not being sakara, or rather disoriented as a group, to be unified, and it's calling upon people from a wide spectrum of society. Some of those may be disadvantaged, and encourages those, regardless of their weaknesses, to purify themselves and get involved in the organization of a group of people that follow the laws of nature, which is equality and freedom for all men. So, is alcohol prohibited in the Quran? The answer is no, it's not. However, common sense tells you that alcohol isn't good for you. It's a serious poison. It's one of the worst things you can do. Damages your brain severely and your body. I'll see you at my next video.